Hey guys, Pete here. This will be my part 2 of Queen Cersei, First of Her Name, How Long May She Reign series. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I'll put a link right up at the top side of the screen here, and I would suggest you watch that part first. I had a lot of people leave comments about the numbers I used for Cersei's potential number of troops and how they thought they were too high. This might be true, as it's pretty hard to say for sure how many men of fighting age are still around after the War of the Five Kings. But one thing to keep in mind is that the kind of number I was trying to put together was based on, everyone. I wasn't thinking of just active soldiers, knights, or other types of elite fighters. I meant for the number to be an estimate of the number of people that the ruler of the Seven Kingdoms could muster in defense of the crown. But the number isn't what the video series is about. It's about how long might Cersei stay on the Iron Throne. Any estimate of troops is in the best case scenario, and that they have to be willing to take up arms and in many cases sacrifice their lives for the queen. In part 1 I laid out a pretty good idea of what Daenerys will be bringing with her when she lands in Westeros. Her Dothraki and Unsullied are 100% behind her, and Dorne and the Tyrells have every reason in the world to see House Lannister fall and disappear from history. The Yara faction of House Greyjoy also has a good reason to stay on Dany's side, since Uncle Euron is currently on a mission to engage in some kinslaying in regards to her and Theon. So Dany's forces are united for a common cause, and she is the undisputed leader. So let's talk about what options Cersei has to retain her power, and if we think it's possible for her to do so. There is a chance that she won't be able to do anything, and Daenerys will arrive and roll right over her. But that scenario doesn't leave much room for speculation, and thus doesn't make for a very good video. First things first, Cersei took the throne and basically crowned herself by removing the small council that served under her now dead son, King Tommen. This seems like it would be a big problem, but if you actually dig into the Baratheon family line, you have to go back about 150 years or so. You can end up on Tywin Lannister's line as part of the succession. Robert's great-great-great-great-grandfather's line splits off and ends in two places, Robert and Tywin. So in reality, there is some credence to the Lannisters taking the throne legitimately, but that's not how she did it. And if you're thinking, well, Dany and Jon are Targaryens, so don't they have a claim? The simple answer to that is no. I mean, when a family topples another and installs themselves as the royal line, you just don't go back to the other family if a new one all dies off. Now, people might support them, but technically, the crown is still in Baratheon hands, and there is no Baratheon heir. But again, the proper line of succession isn't the point of this video either, because matters like that are always somewhat gray, and in the end they are decided by one thing: support. Technically, Gendry could have a claim to the throne, but he isn't a factor because there's no one left to try to install him or support him in his bid. That's why Dany can take over. She could say that Robert was a usurper, and she has a strong force behind her that want to see her succeed. There's also a chance that the small folk would be in favor of this. Even though Robert's reign was a time of peace and prosperity for the most part, things have been hard since the War of the Five Kings broke out. She was able to win over the masses, if not the masters in the East, so it isn't that big of a stretch. So what does Cersei have? Well, she has the physical throne and what goes with that, and a city with strong defenses. If the small folk didn't love her before her walk of shame and before she blew up the Great Sept, these aren't the kinds of actions that would win them over. Remember, the Sparrows movement was wildly popular with people who were poor, and those who lost everything during the war. This may not have been as clear in the show as in the books, but people were signing up in droves all throughout the countryside. When the going gets tough, people look towards faith, and Cersei quite literally destroyed the center of that faith with her wildfire. I think it's safe to say that her subjects fear her, but they definitely don't love her. As mentioned, the number of troops she might be able to rally is questionable. Are there any other players she might be able to bring to her cause? This is hard to answer because normally what would happen in this situation is that she would marry someone from another powerful house and get started on producing an heir. This is like the #1 job of any royal family, and I just don't see Cersei making this a priority. She could do what's been mentioned in the books that I don't remember the show ever bringing up, but she could marry Jaime. The Targaryens were famous for marrying brother to sister to preserve their line, and even though the religious powers didn't necessarily approve, they did let it go on in a lot of cases. I don't really see that that's the way the show's heading, but it is the only scenario where I could see her trying to produce a new heir. Who else is around? Since the Tyrells have sided with Dany, I tried to think of some houses from the Reach who could turn out to be loyalists. We don't really have many examples to choose from, so the one character we've already met that comes up is Randyll Tarly. There isn't any strong evidence that he might be a factor other than he was a loyalist during Robert's Rebellion. Now that doesn't really mean much because, being a loyalist in the Robert's Rebellion was to be on the Targaryen side. So, your guess is as good as mine if he might go against the Tyrells, there isn't enough evidence based on the show Randall Tarley to know which side he would be on. I mean, you know, if he goes against the Tyrells, it would be a power play, and it would be, you know, there would be benefit, but he'd also have to believe that Cersei was going to win somehow. Otherwise, basically, his, you know, if she loses, then his family gets wiped off the map. So that's not there's no real strong evidence. The other free agent is the one that most people think will side with Cersei, Euron Greyjoy. This isn't cut and dry either, though. Euron has stated that his goal is to swoon Dany, and on the show, this is really all we know about him, other than he killed his brother and wants to kill Yara and Theon. He's a super interesting character in the books, where there is way more going on with him, but in the show, it almost feels like he's just there to balance things out. I don't think it's a done deal or anything like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if Euron and Cersei got together to form Team Crazy Evil. Even if that does happen, though, I don't see Euron doing it for any reason other than to gain power, so once he has it, why would he really need her anymore? So I think Euron will play a part. I think he's set up to be like a really, you know, sort of in the way Ramsay Bolton was. He's set up to be like the arch villain, but it's really hard to say where he's going to land because they just haven't given us much to go off of. I haven't talked about the North yet, and my gut feeling is that the North won't really be involved in the conflict between Cersei and Dany. This is based on the fact that Jon is the only one who really understands that the White Walkers are the real threat to humanity, and I expect him to move towards the Wall to defend Castle Black. There's basically no one there, and he knows how important it is to defend it. Of course, Littlefinger's there, and he may have different ideas. He claims his goal is to sit on the Iron Throne with Sansa by his side, but she didn't exactly sound on board with the idea. He has Sweet Robin and his army, and so he has power behind him, but the only thing we know for sure is that whatever he does will be in his own self-interest. Either way, he shouldn't be on Cersei's good side at the moment, since he dealt the deciding blow in the Battle of Bastards against the Crown. Bottom line is things don't look good for Cersei. She doesn't have the love of her people, which means the factor of them defending their homes against an invading army isn't present. I'm sure she still has some wildfire, but that only goes so far. She's low on choices for making alliances, and her well-defended city is pretty much negated by Daenerys' dragon. I didn't even mention them in the first video because I didn't want it to seem too lopsided, but yeah, they're a big thing. I mean, dragons destroy cities. What's truly crazy is that in spite of all of this, I still don't see Cersei losing the throne right away. It's possible, just like anything's possible, but I feel like her story isn't over. Besides being against the dragon, she's pretty safe in King's Landing, since she basically killed everyone who might oppose her there. She has Qyburn, the Zombie Mountain, and Jaime to protect her locally. Out of these three, I think Jaime is the wild card based on the look he gave her when she was being crowned. Well, for a lot of reasons, really, but Qyburn is no one without her, and the mountain doesn't seem to have the ability to make decisions against her will. Jaime, on the other hand, cares for her, and he is the one who could intervene if she continues to do crazy shit. There was a lot made about how the Mad King showing up in Bran's vision was a foretelling of her using wildfire, but there could also be a connection with the fact that he killed him rather than following through with his plan to burn the city. I think there's a pretty good chance that Cersei will actually burn the city, but maybe that will finally push Jaime over the edge. I think how long Cersei will reign will be dependent on what happens with everyone else. In Dan and Dave's first interview, where they gave up some hints on the story in season 7, they talked about Cersei's journey throughout the season in a way of finding out who she is without the love of her children. Ultimately, she can't win much outside of King's Landing, but I think she will remain in place there until the end of this upcoming season. It's hard to tell if the formula for big episodes will be the same, with only 13 of them left total, but I think her death would be in the end of this season rather than in season 8. In the books, I feel 100% certain that Jaime will be the one who kills her, so I think there's a good chance that it will end that way in the show too. I mentioned in my Valonqar video how they left that part out in the show's version of the prophecy, but either way, I think Jaime killing her and then killing himself is the best conclusion to their story. I think it's a lot better than her being killed by a dragon or by Dany, who has never met her. If you think about it, they could have just left the word Valonqar out because the average viewer would have no idea what it meant. So even though the circumstance is different than, you know, what drove the Mad King crazy, I mean, she's basically the modern Mad Queen. She has every reason to be paranoid because everyone is against her, besides the people that she has right around her. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think Daenerys will come into Westeros and wipe the floor with Cersei? Or do you think she will get sidetracked, which would leave time for Cersei to really explore her dark side? Is there anyone who she could form an alliance with that would actually help her match up against Dany? Do you think that there's a chance that anyone other than Jaime might kill her? Do you think that when she finally gets trapped and knows she can't win, she will burn King's Landing to the ground with the remaining wildfire? It's a lot to think about. Please like the video if you found it interesting and subscribe to my channel. Leave any questions you have in the comments and let me know if there's any other videos like this you want to see. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.